My name is Jef Staes, and since 2003 I'm an independent because my last period in Siemens I was what we call a corporate learning officer, trying to change organizations into more learning and innovative organizations. And now I give lectures like this. So I first give you my first slide, just see if it works. It's a story about learning, change and innovation, and it's also a story about what I'm going to call Swiss 3D. It's about sheeps, it's about smarts. I got one sheep with me. So it's a very nice sheep, but most of the sheeps I know aren't nice. So it's also about heroes. And I think there are a lot of heroes in the room, but you have to show them that you are heroes. So what I'm going to tell you about is a story, but it's a very confronting story. So I always have this disclaimer with me. It says, any resemblance with real persons is unintentional. And the moment you become angry, sick, or you start crying, you can leave the room. It's not my fault, it's yours. If you stay here, it's your fault, okay? So that's the disclaimer. So I'm not responsible for anything that's going to happen. So what the fuck is happening? So what is happening in the world? Is ICT or software or all the applications we just saw, are that a solution? I think they are an enabler. But we have a very big problem with society today, with organizations and our educational system. And if we don't solve these problems, then we don't use all the things we've heard. So what I'm going to tell you about is the reason why everybody needs to learn faster and why organizations have to innovate. And I'm going to do this in 6 steps. And when I'm at the end of these 6 steps, it's an half an hour. So it's something like 65 or 80 slides, so it's a lot, but the same as my predecessor. So the first thing I'm going to talk to you about is, but that you already know. We are facing a global information wave. Everybody knows that. So just to bring it in some pictures, in 1850 it took 45 years for the information to double. In 1993. In 2012, if you're 1 week sick, you go back to work, you're sick again. So this is the situation. So the amount of information is increasing, and it's all because of technology. And you're in the field of technology. But there is one particular thing, and I've been in business now, I've been working since '79, and there is one golden rule. If you're not passionate about what you do, then information has no value. So if people who are going to work are not passionate about what they do, and they are not passionate in the evolution in what they do, then information has no value. And this is bad. Why is this bad? Because 80% of people going to work are not passionate about what they do. So, and this is the main problem. We didn't create organizations to innovate and learn. No, we just created organizations to make people go to work, but not being passionate about what they do. And that's the problem. So if we can't solve this problem, ICT won't be a solution. It will become a problem. So what do we have to do? The first thing we have to realize that information has changed the world dramatically. And to explain that, I started to work with the words 2D and 3D, because everybody knows the words 2D and 3D. We are coming from a period in time which I call 2D. In the 2D time period, there was an information shortage. You know why we have an information shortage? Because we had to go to school to learn. It's the same thing like if you were living in a village where there's no water, then you have to go to the well to get some water. Well, you are coming from a time frame, we had to go to school to learn. There was no other place we could learn. And this has as a result that all our teachers were more clever than we were, because they had all these books and they had all this information. And then we went to work. And then we went to work for a boss who was more clever than we were, because he has 20 years experience, and they promoted him because he could tell you then how you had to do it. And then we got politicians who were more smarter than we were, because they had information we didn't have. And in this time period, everything is flat. It's two-dimensional. And suddenly something changed. We have an information explosion, and the speaker before me did a very good job by explaining it, because everybody has access to information. Everybody can put information on the internet. Everybody can do whatever. And suddenly the teacher at school is not anymore the more clever. And if your manager isn't the cleverest anymore, and if he is, then he has a stupid team. And even politicians aren't clever anymore. Some of them think they are, but they aren't. And all of this happened in 5 years' time. And this is what I call, we are facing today a switch. And I think ICT can be the leverage to enable this switch, but you have to change something else. So what happens now, in this 3D time frame, we are looking for people who are called 3D smarts. They are smart people in this new era. But before you can understand that, we have to understand what are 2D smarts. And 2D smarts are we. All of us. We are born in the 2D time frame, and we had to go to school. And now I'm going to tell you something very hard, and I hope some of you will understand what is going on. It's not about technology, it's because of us. And I will try to explain it. When we were in the 2D time frame, we went to school. And then after a while, when we studied, we got a degree, or we got a diploma. And then we went to work, and then some of us that, I explain you later, but this is grass. But some of us didn't have very good-looking grass. This is our salary. So we went to work with a lower degree or a lower diploma, and then our salary was low. And then we asked our boss, how come we have such a small salary? And then he said, well, you didn't went to school long enough, so you don't know much, because that was the only place you could learn. And then some of us went to school, and we got a university degree. And then we went to work. Who has a university degree in this room? Don't be shy, all of you. And then you went to work, and then you got a high salary, a very high salary. And then you asked your boss why, and he said, well, you know a lot, because you went to the well, you drank for 23 years, and there's a lot of stuff in your head. And then you got your degree. And everybody has a degree, you have to got this diploma, it's on your wall. Have you ever looked to this degree or this diploma? It's signed by professors, and they all signed, he knows less than I do. He knows less than I do. He knows less than I do. There is not one professor who has signed, he knows more than I do. That was not possible. Because then you would have more than 100. Who has more than 100? Nobody. You have 60 or 70. Because you couldn't be smarter than your teacher. It wasn't possible. Because he couldn't ask you questions he didn't know the answer on. So everybody has a degree because you weren't so smart as the professor or the teacher. If you think about this, you didn't get a degree because you have passion and talents. No, you got a degree because you succeeded in those subjects you didn't have the passion for. You know. So you got a degree because you weren't as smart as the professor or the teacher, and you got a degree because you succeeded in this stuff you didn't like to study. And that's a degree. And that's the reason why you paid so much. How can you be so stupid to develop a system like that? Okay, and then we went to work. And they put us in a hierarchy. They gave us a job. And then they gave us a function description. Who has a function description? Everybody has a function description. But this is crazy. This is the most craziest system I've ever seen. You know why? You know what a function description is? It's just a list of things you have to do. I worked for so many years in the HR. I'm an engineer from background. I think most of the HR people are the most stupid people I know. Okay, because they developed these systems. So you got your function description, and then after the year, your boss says, now we have an appraisal talk. And then he says, he takes your function description and your smart objectives or whatever, and he says, well, this thing is okay. And then you say, well, that's nice. And then he says, but these things, these tasks, you don't do very well. And then you tell your boss, but that's not my passion and my talent. And then he says, do you think you're paid to do what you like to do? And then the craziness doesn't stop, because then he sends you to courses to do better what you don't like to do. And this is competence management. And then, this is crazy. No, this is crazy. And then, then some people of you made software to do that better. and then you ask yourself, what is happening with the world, right? Well, this is the problem. So what happens then is, well, you have to remember that when you got a degree, not because you're passionate and talent, and then you got your degree, and then you can only do what's on your degree, it says you're this or that and that, and then you do a function which stated you have to have this degree or this diploma to do this function, then that's a stupid system. Because then you have to do things you don't like to do based on a diploma which doesn't state your passion and talents. And what they did with us, they put fences around us. We can't use our passion and talents. We just came into a system, and then this happens. And most of us are in a fence. You can't do anything else because you don't have a degree for that. So you have to do what I explained to you before. And there is a famous quote about when you put people behind the fence, then you get sheep. So, and what we did with our things, we changed people into sheep, like this. And all of us are sheep. And in order to manage sheep, we developed sheep management. And these are the people who use function descriptions, but you always have two black sheep. And the one on the right, that's one of the union. So you can put picture there, and then in the middle that's a young person coming from school. It's a very young sheep. And then after 35 years of competence management, he goes on a pension like that. And then he says, now I will be able to do what I like to do. That's not true. If you're 65, you can't do anything more what you like to do. So, and this is motivational skills. So all managers today are sent to courses to make sheep work. This is smart objectives. And this is human resources management. So if you have a function and you don't perform in this function, then they make you work in another function description. So it's just sheep movement. And this, then you have protest. And so people start protesting with it because they say, I don't work behind the fence. And then you got disengagement. So, and the problem is we have so many people working or going to work, but they are not engaged anymore. They are just working because of their salary, and that's it. And the point is, then they go on strike, most of the time in Brussels. They say, well, we are disengaged, but I want a higher salary. Or I want something else. But what they forget is that they don't have any passion anymore to learn. And it's not because of their thing, it's because we created a lost generation. And this is our fault. This is the fault of us, but we didn't know. We created a lost generation by implementing systems like the commercial you saw about smoking. At that time we thought it was good. At that time we thought function description and degrees were okay, but it isn't. It's killing passion and talents. And we should stop doing this. And I'm not telling this for us because I'm 56 now, and maybe I work another 20 or 30 years, but I'm doing this for our grandchildren, and I'm doing it for them because I don't want them to live in a world where they can't use their passion and talents. So if I ask this to a lot of people, do you agree with this statement? Well, most of the people say yes. And then I say, well, this is the reason why I have to strike. Because can you imagine that we have in Europe millions of people who aren't passionate about what they do? Do you really think they use ICT to learn? No. They use ICT as an addiction for doing something else. But can you imagine that more of our people going to work with passion, using that passion and talent, than information is a learning source. It's the basic of creativity. And the next thing is, what are 3D smarts? Well, 3D smarts are they? And why? They have a brain. We also have a brain, but it has become a sheep brain. I'm not talking about you, okay? No. I'm talking about all the other people. But our brain has become a sheep brain. And you have to remember, you have to be very clear. I'm going to tell you what are 3D smarts. Well, 3D smarts are people who say, I'm a person. I have a brain. I want to show what I can. I want to show my grandchildren what their dad was or their mom did. But you have to know that you only become a smart if you know your talent. You know that when I was working with Siemens, I did a lot of interviews from people who came from education, engineers and whatever, and they didn't know their talents. They only could show they had good results in stuff they didn't like to do. But they couldn't tell me what's their talent. Now, if you don't know your talent, how are you going to develop passion for that talent? It's impossible. You know what's the worst thing in Europe or whatever? People don't know their talent and they don't develop passion for their talents. And that's a problem. So you have a lot of people they don't know their talents and they can't develop passion. You have a lot of people with a lot of passions with stuff they don't have a talent for. These are people with a degree. Okay? So, but suppose you have a talent and you have a passion for that talent. Do you know what you want to do? Learn. Do you know what you need for learning? Information. Do you know that everybody can get to information today out of school? You know you can have more access out of school to information than in school? Do you know why? Because the teacher doesn't want his students to know more than him. And your boss doesn't want you to know more than him, because then he can't do sheep management anymore. And this is a problem. So if I ask these questions, and I give a lot of lectures in schools and organizations, do you think organizations and schools are not built to use the passion and talents of people? People agree. So we have to ask ourselves, why not? And you just heard I wrote some books. This one isn't in English yet, but maybe some of the European Commission with a passion for languages can translate it for me for free, and then we have a deal. Then you have passion and talent. But the title is, I Was a Sheep. We transformed from an ape to a person, and now they transformed us to a sheep. Behind the fence. How can you become an innovative organization by doing this? So we have to tear down these fences, and that's the reason why I take a very firm stand on the following thing. I think the reason why organizations aren't innovative are because of 3 reasons. Degrees or diplomas, function descriptions, and we have to go on a pension. So if I would have something like a movement, I would go for diploma-free education, function-free work, and pension-free life. Right? Just think about it. You have to do these 3 things. I'm not going to discussion, we don't have the time for it. But if you don't solve these things, and most of the people, when I have a talk like this, they agree, you can't become an innovative organization or an innovative region. We are still in 2D. And this demands heroes. So the next thing is, it's not ARC, it's not all folks, and we heard about it, but still I'm going to talk to you about this. We have a generation drama. This is me, when I was 10 years old. Do you know what happened? Television was Google. So this was me and my assistant. It isn't me. I just got a picture from internet, but because at my home we didn't have a camera. So I just found it on the internet. And you remember, if you're 50 or older, you know what's on the television screen? On the television screen, it's a test image. Now go back in the past. I remember when I was 10 years old, I was looking to a test image on a television screen. You know why? It was magic. It was coming from space. And if I would like to see to another test image, I have to ask my dad. because I wasn't allowed to change channel. Do you know why? Because he was the boss. And if I did it wrong, it could be a defect. It didn't work anymore. So, and this is the time period where I grew up. And these people from 10 years old are we. And these people are telling that children today aren't social anymore. I can't remember. I think they forgot. They got amnesia. Because when I watched this test image, when the pictures start moving, I had to go to sleep. I had to be quiet. In the morning I wake up, I had to go to school, I had to be quiet too because I only had to listen. In the summer I played in the outside, and in the winter I played inside with cards. And these people are telling that children today aren't social. Do you know why? Because they don't understand. You know, this is one of my, this is my garage at home. It's a part, you don't want to see the rest. Okay, but this is just a part. We got broadband internet, we got 3 sons, my wife is in vacation, and everything is coming through that tiny wire. We don't see each other anymore. We are connected through the internet. We're sending mails to each other, we're sitting 2 meters from each other. Do you know why? Because you just want to ship information. And we also talk. We got the same problem with at home. So this is one of my sons. And I remember when he was 14 years old, we told him, get behind of your computer because you're not social. I remember we telling it. Now he is 31. When he was 18 years old, he went as a student to the States as an exchange student. When he was 21, he studied in Exeter history 1 year. And last year he went with his girlfriend on a 10-month backpacking trip in South America, visiting the Galapagos Islands, and 10 months. So he came back and he spoke Spanish. And this is the same guy we told when he was 15, you're not social. Do you know why? We don't understand the world anymore. It has become so beautiful. It has changed in a self-organized learning environment. Everybody can learn if you have passion and talent. And if your organizations allows you to use all the information channels, you know. You know that this is the thing. They created in a corporation environment. We just don't see it anymore. And this is something, this is terrible. You know, I was responsible for learning in a big company, in a telecom company. And when I did a video conference, or people had to look to a YouTube video, they couldn't do it at work. They had to do it at home. Can you imagine, you are all ICT professionals, and children from 13 and 14 years old have more access to information at home than at their work. How is this possible? How can you explain this to me as a 56-year-old professional, that all professionals at the places you work have less access than somebody from 13 years old at home? If you can explain me that, then you're smart, but I don't think you can. You have all the excuses in the world, you can't. And that's the problem. We don't need excuses. We need solutions. So what is the impact of the global smart wave? Innovation. We are facing today a global innovation wave. Why? Because information is free, everybody can add information to that. But as I explained to you before, you can't innovate with sheeps. You only can innovate with smarts. So smarts are at the center, because smarts are using this information, they become creative, and then you need entrepreneurship. And what is entrepreneurship? Well, entrepreneurship is just the beginning of innovation. And this is happening today. And then this innovation delivers new products and new services, and then people start to copy because that's information. And this is happening. So what is happening with the world? It's going faster and faster and faster and faster and faster and faster. It doesn't stop anymore. How come regions don't innovate? No smarts. You know why no smarts? Degrees, function description, and pension aids. You know why 3D smarts, if they are in organizations, can't be creative? Because they don't have access to information. Do you know what happens if you have information smarts and they are creative? You don't have the budget to invest. So don't tell me why organizations don't innovate. You know. Just tell me what you're going to change about it to make it this really one of the most innovative regions. So this is a big SOS. We are drowning. We are drowning. We can't keep up. We can't do this. So what is this thing? And this is step 5. We are living in a world where organizations need much more business innovation. And what is business innovation? Well, this is just what do you deliver at your customers? What are your products and services? And this is just a snapshot of a small company in Belgium. And they just showed, this graph just showed, how many projects or products are added the last 5 years. 60% of its products didn't exist 5 years ago. 80% of its profits comes from this 60%. So this is innovation. How can you do this? By making sheep out of your employees. It's not possible. You have to change the culture of organization. So the problem today is, what is the biggest challenge? The biggest challenge for me is not ICT. It isn't. It isn't all the new tech coming available. No, it isn't. That's not the real problem. The real problem today is you have to change your organization. This is the real problem. So stop focusing on the wrong subject. You should have a meeting about how do we change organizations. And this is the most problem, because then you need change in management style and change in culture. And if you change this, then information becomes an enabler. So what are this today? We have ships in trouble. How do you recognize ships in trouble? It's very easy. A lot of throwing up. A lot of throwing up. Because everybody is sick. The world changed too hard. And I'm a sheep. So this too. And they don't know anymore. You don't know. Everybody, this is the egg. The politicians are the egg. And managers are the egg. And nobody knows anymore, because we changed. The world changed from 2D to 3D. And this is a graph about engagement. You know, this graph says that 20% of employees are engaged. 60% are not engaged. This is the white stuff. And 20% is actively disengaged. That's the black sheep. Even the color is right. 60% are white sheep, and 20% are black sheep. And you know what happens? The ship sinks. And this is a real problem. So we have to start focusing on the real problem. And the real problem is the CEO. That's the small guy at the end of the table. And he doesn't know anymore. Again, just to be a disclaimer, it's not about your bosses, it's all the other bosses. It's not about these people, it are all the other ones, okay? Because maybe this is the last time I'll be here, but, you know, you know, you need guts. You need guts. We go into the essence. We have to use passion and talents of people, put them in the roles, they inhale information to become very competent. But to do that, you have to change the structure of organization, because otherwise, no glory. No guts, no glory. It's very easy. So what do you need? You need culture innovation. And in one of the books, I introduced this thing. In the 2D age, we needed innovation, but not that much. You know why? We didn't have information. China didn't have access to information, right? We had the best schools. We had everything, we had the best. But this was okay because we didn't have to innovate that much. But today, the world has changed. Now we have to innovate very fast. And I explain you in half an hour what innovation is and where the problem is. So we have to stop focusing on business innovation. We have to start focusing on culture innovation. We have to be very creative, and we have to be entrepreneurs in changing our organizations, in changing the management style, HR processes, education, everything. That's what we have to tackle, because otherwise it will be done. It's done. We drown. So we need a revolution. And maybe you can start this revolution. Do you know why we need a revolution? Because we are facing a time period. This is a time period where people change. Information is not information. It changes the face of everything. Okay? And for a lot of people, what I'm telling you is a threat. You know for who? For people with a degree or a diploma but no passion and talent. Do you know for who is it a threat? For a manager who is able to manage 20 sheeps but is not able to manage 20 passionate talents who are more smart than he is. Do you know for who is the threat? For all these human resources management departments who have developed function descriptions and competence management. Do you know for who is an opportunity? For everybody else. You know, it's the same stuff like actors. You know, when you have the stupid movie, the still movies, you didn't talk. Who had the power? Actors who didn't speak. You know why? Because everybody was built around them. And then somebody said, hey, I think we can make speaking movies. Do you know what they did with them? They killed them. Because it was a threat. So it's not about ICT. It's about organizations. So, and this is the thing, and you have to vote in yourself. 2D people who see 3D as a threat have more power than people who see 3D as an opportunity. And this is Darwin. This is Darwin. Because he says, if you don't adapt, we will die. It's very easy. So the next thing is, we have to face the dramas. And that's the reason why we need heroes. And that's the reason I think we need you. We need 3D publicity, 3D directors, 3D executives, 3D managers, 3D HR, 3D whatever. And this is my final slide, so I'm in my 30 minutes. The final slide is, don't ever give up. I thank you.